Well, we're going to basically getting set up to mount the top caps for the bearings. I've lubed everything up and we've got a reasonable nice spin on that, and there's a nice film of oil going onto it, and I keep topping this up as it's wicking it through. What I found is when I put the shims onto the top caps and then clamp them down, the shaft's locking up. Now I know that when I scraped them, I scraped the front bearing, so I was getting good contact with no shims and without nipping the bolts up too tight, just sort of say a 1/16 of a turn or whatever. I could still rotate the shaft comfortably. On the back one I needed, I think it was 2 thou shim under it, and I was getting a good print. So given that I've added an additional 2 thou shims underneath, that should lift the top caps up, so they shouldn't it shouldn't be locking up, shouldn't be binding. It's not binding on the bottom, so all I can think is the only extra material that's gone in is the wicks. So I might have put too much wick stuffing in, so I've got to lift the shaft out and have a look. And every time I lift it out, my arm hurts. So we'll see how we go out. But I can see how, I mean, they are quite firm when I'm prodding in places, and it wouldn't take, because of the fit of those bearings, it wouldn't take much just to lift that shaft up and place it hard against the top face. So I am going to hoik the wicks out, stuff a bit more back down the hole, where it feeds up from, and then pad it back down and see how that works. I think it is going to be a suck it and see. Not how much of that you can see, but there we go. Well, I haven't filmed all of this because it's been very, very tedious. It's taken a lot more shimming under it than I anticipated. Not entirely sure why, but I reached a point where I was adding more and more shims, and I'm poking the wick down. I just thought, right, go back to start. So I've taken the wick out of the front one, left the back one as is, fitted the cap with the light oil around it, spun it for a bit, bolted down the caps, it all locks up, which is what I anticipated. So then put the shimming in with no wick, to where I thought it should be leaving something in the region of a 2 thou gap locked up. So I've basically been messing about with the front to get the right amount of shimming in so that I can actually now spin it by hand, and then done the same at the back. What's complicated it more is, if you remember, the wear in the top half of the back bearing was far less than in the front, so the scraping required to bring that down to good contact was significantly less. I took the same amount off the bottom face of both, so that's actually needed a lot more shimming. I think I've got something like 12 thou shim in there, which is far more than I wanted. Not anticipating that, trying to build it up in 1 thou and 2 thou thick shims was a pain in the rear, so I ended up putting a couple of 5 thou shims in, and then some 1 thou shims in to build it up. So that's now given me, I can turn that by hand. It's not too vigorous, it's not too stiff. I'm still feeding oil into this wick and it's whipping it across, but there's no wick in this one at the moment. So I've got to now take them both off, lift the shaft out, put the wick into this, and get the stuffing about right. What I've done just before I break it all down is I've had a DTI on the top of there. You see that? Yeah. And measured the lift, and I'm getting 2.7 thou lift. I could, if I could be arsed, stick some of those plastic gauges in, but they're not going to measure it any more accurately than that. So we got somewhere in the region of just under 3 thou to get a smooth run with that ISO 32 oil in there. I would suspect that you get away with a smaller clearance with thinner oil. Right, so yeah, I'm going to drop these out now, take the shaft out or spindle out, and then piss about poking in the wick again. This could prove interesting. So aside from the fact it seems to be sitting very high, because there's no way. Still sitting on it. That's better. Chilly this morning compared with how it's been. Mind you, it's the middle of January and I don't think we've had a frost yet. We had a sprinkling of snow for about an hour in December and that's all we've had. Noticeably warmer. I noticed over the festive season, Tom Lipton put a video out which I've got in my watch later list of something like 12 unorthodox uses of a steel rule in the workshop. That's my favourite bit of steel rule. I'm sure Tom's probably got it covered, adding cutting paste into a die. The split die and holder were a gift off Marcus Christiansen from Australia. Cheers Marcus, if you're watching this. I think you've given up with me now, it take too long. So it's what's that, P&N? Little map of Australia on it. Yeah. My lathe's not got a imperial lead screw and I haven't got the conversion gears, so it's proving troublesome. What I'm making up is a new one of these because it was cut off when we were extracting the lathe. Couldn't see another way of getting the thing out. We needed to take the gearbox off before we took this off, but we couldn't get the gearbox off without taking this off. It all became clear once we'd cut it and got it all off how it came off, but I actually thought it was a stud with a free nut, but it's not. It's the nut is captive, so making one of them. You'll see where it goes later. I think it's the clamp for the moving quadrant. So there's an arc slot which fits over this piece. It moves back and it pivots here, and then on a slotted section here there's a changeable gear set. These were the bearing sets out of the belt rollers at the back. That one's a little bit sticky. This is after flushing them out. That one's solid. So I got some new ones. They're original Hoffman bearing types, which is quite a big brand in the UK. Not sure. I don't think they go in now, like a lot of UK places. Anyway, I ordered them at 3 o'clock yesterday from these guys, and they've arrived today. Can't argue with that. I'll strip it open and make sure they're the right ones. So there were a choice of different types. I could have got like this open roller, or open bore ones, races, metal dust seals, or I actually went for the rubber sealed ones, and these are Japanese, mate. Yep, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. They look pretty adjacent. So that's geared up, and I'm assuming that the other packet is the drive belts. I'll try and get this front gear bit on now. So I'm going to clean off the over paint, and then that fits on to there, and it's got a load of handles and knobbly bits, and then the connectors for those. So I'll build this up first, and then it should fit on then. Well, it came off. Well, I was going to show you a really slick assembly operation with it all laid out on a green cloth. Unfortunately, I then discovered it wouldn't fit in built up. I think that needed to go on before the spindle went in. So I've had to do a bit of wrestling and get the parts basically put together in here, which is not ideal, but at least I haven't got to take the spindle out. Yes, there was some foul language. These are nice snug sliding fit in there. Right, I'll fit the cap heads and then fit the handles and the linkage. But yeah, still not up to Keith Rucker's style standard. Mind you, I haven't got a barn anywhere near as big as him, so. But I can say the word height. Although maybe I'm doing Keith a disservice. Maybe it's not him that says height. Sorry, Keith. So these things are basically a peg. It slides over there and goes up under there. So I think what I'm going to do is lift this section on and lower it down over them, which is annoying, but I don't want to take that spindle out again. No, it's going to come out. This is going to be fiddly. Times like this I wish I had my little lad with me. He likes doing stuff, lining stuff up. As long as his fingers don't get nibbled, then he's not so keen. God admire the guys that sat down with basically a pencil and paper and drew all this out, and then thought, nah, what we'll do is put a pin on the end of that and link it through that hole there, and then that shaft can go up and link onto that shaft there through another hole. I'm not bad at thinking in 3D on a piece of paper, but I was taught to do it at school in the 80s, just before CAD came out. So I finished all my exams, very chuffed with myself, and then found out there were no jobs because they were all going over to CAD. So I'd got to learn from scratch. And at the time, engineering wasn't a thing I wanted to get into. In the late 80s, this country was on its arse, manufacturing wise and engineering wise, so different careers were offered. Certainly in the area I lived in. I don't think it was unique to Leicestershire, or Leicestershire as it's pronounced. Right, well, I've got all the linkages on now, and can see in principle how it all works, but there's this one's got some serious problem with it, which I think is just down to some excessive wear on this joint in the hole, which is annoying because that's the bloody pin I made a new one for. So I'm going to have a bugger about with it, but long and the short of it is, once it gets past its current position, it's alright that way, but going that way it'll go and then it locks and it's stuck. And it seems to be that this just tilts enough to pin the tip the gear, so it don't want to slide on that shaft. Anyway, I shall see if I can find out exactly what it is. Well, after quite a bit of self-contemplation and staring at my navel, pulling bits of fluff, I concluded that the only thing I could have got wrong on this is the bringing up the tails from the back. So if you remember, I started out with 3 tails, went into the back and dug out the others to give me enable me to have 6 tails, so I could set it up to start up in delta. Somewhere I must have swapped 2 of the tails end for end. So for all intents and purposes, the polarity of one set of fields was reversed, which is why it was running but no power in it, and it tripped the inverter out. So my gut feel was that it was actually this pair. It wasn't. So I swapped them round, decided it wasn't, and then through a process of logic decided, well, if I swap the next pair round, I've either then got 2 still wrong and 1 right, or I've swapped 2 that were right with the wrong one. So it was the second pair that sorted it out. So if we press the magic button, not the quietest of motors. I might put another shot of grease into the bearings. I'm going to let it run for half an hour or so. But at least now I can get the thing mounted. I'll tidy up that a little bit, shrink that into place, and then I've got to somehow work out how to bring the cable out the back and through the pedestal. So that's going to be a bit of jiggery pokery because I don't think that's going to fit. Anyway, bit of progress. Thanks to Mr. Norfolk, who's had some correspondence with me on Instagram, confirming my thoughts. I'm no electrician and don't claim to be, and don't copy the way I do stuff. So that's where I'm at. Got the motor in and mounted, powered up. I'm feeling quite chuffed about that because I'm no electrician, but I didn't burn my fingers and didn't burn anything out. So yeah, so the motor's now mounted. Got to finish the drive off, and then basically bed the clutch bearings in, set the clutch, and then basically fire it up and start looking at the spindle bearings. Once that's in order, the plan then is to shift the whole of the lathe back against the wall to its final position, level it up again, and then bed the carriage and saddle assembly. And we've got to bring in the apron and the lead screw and feed screw and a few other actuators. They're the last few bits that need bringing in now and cleaning down, so there's one more strip down and clean. So yeah, bit of progress. I'm happy enough that it's moving at a rate, so yeah, good stuff. See you again.